Hello, and welcome and greetings from me, Alexei, the host of the program you've just tuned into, The Last Video Store. And thank you for celebrating cinema with me here on this day. We're coming to you a little early this week with a bonus episode. Yes, a bite-sized morsel of cinematic discussion is hitting your ears and eyes right now. And if you know anything about me and my love for film, you'll know that I have a deep love for the Planet of the Apes franchise. I have for my entire life since I saw that original Franklin J. Schaffner 1968 classic when I was just a wee lad, bouncing on my papa's knee, watching a wickedly weird science fiction classic that I had no knowledge of going in. So there were all those rich secrets and speculative fictions being washed upon me like the shores of an unnamed place on an unnamed planet, and I will not spoil those for you, just in case you have also never seen Planet of the Apes. So you know I love those films. I'm even sitting in front of a pair of art prints of that original film and Escape from Planet of the Apes, the third sequel in that franchise. That is a bleak, weird masterpiece that inverts the fish out of the water context of the original film. So I mean, I just love them. I love them. I could talk for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, but I'm going to cut to the chase. This week, a new film in that franchise is released in cinemas on May 9th. I'm, of course, speaking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, that picks up hundreds of years and generations after the conclusion of the last trilogy of films, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. So, I made it my mission to sit down and have a quick chat, a tete-a-tete with the director of that film, WES BALL. WES BALL made his bones as a filmmaker, as a director, with the surprise hits, the Maze Runner films that popped up and stood out in that YA dystopian cycle many, many years ago. And he's got a background in SFX and graphics, so who better to continue on building big blockbusters in the Planet of the Apes franchise than WES BALL? So here we go. Let's get into our chat with Wes about his film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The first thing I want to ask you about is when it comes to casting, so much of casting is about the look of the actor or the attitude that they capture. But when it comes to casting ape actors, what are you looking for?
That's interesting. You're right. We aren't casting for physical appearance, right? Casting for me has always been kind of an instinct level thing. It's like I can usually tell pretty quickly when that actor walks on in the room. It's like, oh, they just have this thing about them that reminds me of the character that I've had in my mind now for the last 2 years or whatever it is. And that's the case on this movie. We just cast people that, regardless of how old they were or what they looked like, they could just be the character that they needed to portray, right? And so we were lucky in that regard. We found great people that happened to be really nice people, very devoted and professional people, but also they just kind of inhabited the characters that we needed to create here,
And can I ask as well, I think a tough thing that you have with this film is, with this premise, it's set hundreds of years after the last trilogy of films. So how did you go about finding the level of articulateness that the apes can have for their communication, their language skills now? Because, they're truly, we're in the Planet of the Apes now. It's just like we're in that world and they're leading the film entirely. How did you go about finding that, how articulate they should be to carry a film?
Yeah, honestly, we spent a lot of time thinking about that. You know what I mean? And if you go back and you look at that last trilogy, in the first movie, Caesar says a word and maybe a little sentence at the end. In the second movie, he says a few more things, but it's very hard to get out. And in the last movie, Caesar's talking quite a bit, including, remember that gorilla when the gorilla that was a traitor? He's full on sentence too, And so in our sights, when we made this movie, we had the Caesar trilogy, behind us that we wanted to stay connected to, but we also had that 68 movie, the original movie that we're heading towards, where they're full on talking, and they're full on walking upright. You know what I mean? So we wanted to just kind of like just slowly, not totally, but just slowly start kind of inching our way closer to that version of things. So, we still tried to find, and it's funny that when you watch the movie without the apes, we had a lot of people say, they're talking so funny. Why aren't they talking like regular humans? You know what I mean? Because they're talking like this a bit, and they still have some kind of cadence that's a little odd. But as soon as you put the ape in there, suddenly now it's like, oh, they're talking to a human now. So I think we found the right sweet spot where it's like, it's just odd enough that it's so sort of fantastical, but we're still trying, hopefully honoring the kind of the biological thing that is difficult to talk. And some apes are different than others, of course. Proximus, for instance, is talking a full-on sentences. He's very eloquent, actually. He has contractions and all this kind of stuff, whereas we didn't let any contractions or kind of colloquial kind of, words kind of exist in the other ape characters, So it just kind of depends, but it takes probably a few minutes to get used to it. But hopefully, once you do, you just kind of go for the ride. These apes are believable and real, and they just are what they are, and off to the races.
I love something that you said. I just want to jump off that, where you talked about when people were seeing like the pre-visualized version of the film, that they were wondering like, why aren't they speaking that way? I've heard that in the physical release of this, there will be a version of the film that does not have the apes, and you have the actors in their mocap. Is that true? And if it is, it seems like the perfect way for someone like you that has a background in visual effects to kind of show the work that goes in and the creativity and the artistry that goes into something like this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. I think it's going to kind of show people just the amount of work that goes into these movies. I think it's crazy that Planet of the Apes movies have never won a visual effects Oscar. I think it's insane. I'm not saying that's what this was about. I don't personally don't care about awards really in that way. But I think there's a mystique and kind of mystery behind what VFX artists do. You know what I mean? There's no button that says make ape or make look worse, make look better. It doesn't work that way. This is real, hard, talented artists and storytellers, crafting these images and this reality that would not have been possible otherwise, So I think it's going to be a cool feature for people to see. They're going to be able to watch the final image and the raw dailies, underneath that, so you can really look and see through it with your own eyes. Like, wow, that's exactly the same, or oh, that's totally not the same at all. I'll go, oh my gosh, this whole scene was full CG. I had no idea. There's 35 minutes of absolutely 100% full CG in the movie. Every blade of grass, every blowing leaf in the background on the tree, the bark, the bugs, the birds, it's all like, created by artists. And hopefully, people don't even notice. But I think it's pretty impressive for myself as like a geek, and kind of like an old frustrated VFX artist. I think it's going to be fun to like watch that magic trick. And I don't think that peek behind the curtain, I don't think it even like takes away the magic. It actually shows you even more like how much magic's involved in a way. So anyway, I think it's going to be a really great feature for people that care about those kinds of things. And it's never been done before, and you'll be able to watch the entire movie to see what we have to work with, and the choices we have to make, and what it looks like when you're editing a movie when it's a bunch of actors with cameras in front of their faces and dots all over. It's wild. It's really cool.
I mean, as soon as I heard about it, my freaking eyes lit up. I can't wait to finally see something come alive that way.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. I think it won't be for everyone, of course, but I think a lot of people will get a kick out of it.
Well, it's for me, so I'm excited.
Nice.
You filmed this film in Australia. Can you talk to me about like what were the visual aesthetics that you found like most engrossing about filming in our landscape here?
Yeah, I mean, we shot in and around Sydney. All over, but in and around Sydney. We were based in Sydney there, which was great. I love being there. There's a history to these movies, at least the originals, the 68 originals, that they were shot in and around Malibu, Malibu Canyon and Malibu Beach and all that kind of stuff. So there's a look to that world, to those movies, that a lot of eucalyptus trees, You know, a certain type of sun, a certain type of scrub, you know, a certain type of mountains, you know, and as we were working on this movie, in this kind of overall idea of trying to like come up with something that felt new and fresh, we couldn't just go back to Vancouver again and do that same look, you know, the kind of, you know, overcast, kind of dark gray, you know, love the look, it's fantastic, but we got to do something new, we got to change it up. And so we're going into the sunlight, you know. So I wanted to set the movie kind of in, if the previous movies were kind of in and around San Francisco and various, you know, areas, and of course War, they kind of did some traveling, but I wanted to set it in kind of Southern California, basically. And so Sydney became a perfect look, a wild look of what maybe Southern California might look like. And so that's kind of ultimately where that choice came from. And I think it works. If you watch this movie, sometimes it feels like it could have existed in that 1968 Charlton Heston version of the movie, you know?
Yeah, it truly does. I mean, that's what really excited me about this film as well. And I think that pitch of jumping ahead like 300 years is so exciting. Did that feel completely freeing for you to like go, what we can do is endless?
Yeah, to me that was the key idea. You know, like you said, it opens up so many more doors for opportunities for story, for character, for, you know, interpretation, you know, but at the same time, we were very conscious that we did not want to lose that Caesar storyline, that legacy that was left behind. And I think we found good ways to, you know, literally bring that character into this movie in a really profound way. It's not just there to kind of, you know, wink, wink, nod, nudge, nudge kind of thing. It's like Caesar is a character in this movie that changes Noah as a character. You know what I mean? So we tried to stand on our own 2 feet, but still kind of honor and respect kind of what came before, you know?
That's so beautifully put, man. I appreciate that a lot. I guess before we kind of start wrapping things up, the podcast that I host and the show that I host is all about like evoking that kind of nostalgia for film discovery that one had back in the day exploring the video store. Do you have any video store memories that kind of bring about that feeling for you?
That's weird. You know, I grew up in a really small town. There were no video stores where I grew up. So I didn't even have a theater close to me. It was an hour away. So most of my young, able to drive myself to these places age, I grew up on watching satellite and HBO and VHS. You know what I mean? So, and in those cases, my memories are mostly about watching the same thing over and over and over and over again until the tapes wore out. You know what I mean? It wasn't until like later when I kind of got into high school and college that I really had those kind of moments of, oh my God. And that was like The Matrix, for instance. You know, it was like, I went into that cold. You know, it was kind of almost pre-internet before they spoiled everything in the trailers. You know what I mean? And you just go and show up and you have your mind blown of what's possible. You know what I mean? And yeah, I love that about movies. And, you know, I hope there's someone out there that didn't watch every one of our trailers and got to withhold some of these ideas and discoveries that we have in the movie so they could have a really interesting experience, you know?
Well, I'm sure there is. Well, that's such a great answer, man. Thank you so much for chatting to me today. I really appreciate it. Good luck and congratulations.
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
can't
man.
wait to see what you do next.
Nice talking with you, dude.
The last video store.
My thanks to Wes Ball for jumping into a little Zoom chat with me to talk about his new film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, that is in cinemas this week on the 9th of May. And also my thanks to Disney Australia for setting up this chat. My gratefulness is appreciated towards you. I recommend go see it on a big ass screen, especially if you love those apes, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, and I actually don't know if there's monkeys in this one, but all of those are in there, including a few human beings and birds and stuff. I can't wait to see what happens next for this film franchise. And I can't wait to see what happens next for the franchise that I am hosting right now, The Last Video Store. We're coming back to you this week with another episode. Joining me for another new release film, we have got, hopping into The Last Video Store, filmmaker Goran Stolevski, whose film Of an Age is one of my favorite Australian films in freaking decades, man. I think he's such a genius filmmaker, and his new film, Housekeeping for Beginners, also comes out on Thursday, the 9th of May in Australia. I love Goran's films. It's my second time interviewing him, but my first time proper hanging out and just talking about films that we both love together. So he's jumping into the Last Video Store this Thursday and talking about his new release favorite, his 2 weeklies, and I've got a mighty task of recommending Goran a film that he's never seen. And I'll say this, if I'm a level 100 cinephile, Goran Stolevsky is maybe a level 1000 cinephile. So, we'll see how we go with that. But we'll see you then. Until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to us on your iTunes, your Spotifys, your YouTubes at the Batuta Advocate YouTube channel to get full episodes of this show. And give us a 5-star review on that platform of choice. Engage with me, engage with the show. Pop in what your rental combo would be. And I'm going to get to it and I'll give you your customized bespoke staff pick recommendation based on your taste. Until then, auf Wiedersehen, and monkey see, monkey do, and I, monkey do love movies.